Hey, fellow traveler. Welcome to the Third Eye Awakening podcast, a show where we talk all about spiritual and psychic awakening, magic, the shift from 3D to 5D, star seeds, ascension, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, the universe, the multiverse, the akashic records, all the good things. I am your host, Amy Belair, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Okay, let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of Third Eye Awakening. Today I am joined with my beautiful friend Jenni Nolan, who is just going to talk and rap with me about spiritual awakening, and who knows where it's going to go. I love Jenni though. I'm really excited to talk with her. She is a woman of many hats, which is very true. She is a self-love and empowerment leader. Empowerment. She likes to work with women, empowering other women and helping them to heal and own their story and step into their desires. She uses human design and the akasha to help women live their most aligned lives. And she's just an absolute pure delight. Welcome, Jenni. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so freaking excited to be here.
Yay. So will you tell us a little bit, kind of like in like a non-bio synopsis-y way, like who you are and how you came to be on a path where spirituality is part of your life at all?
Yeah. So I think with the spirituality part of it, I'll go back usually a little further than I do with my story of like awakening. But I grew up in a home with divorced parents, and my mom was Mormon and my dad was non-denominationally Christian, and they butted heads about religion. And so I always felt like torn about religion, of what was true, what wasn't, but I knew I believed in God, but neither religion really resonated with me.
Mm.
It was more of, I just felt a connection to God and to nature and to good people. And I felt like if you were good, that you would be rewarded. And so that was really how like I based it. It was kind of like I had to put both of my parents' beliefs and what they thought aside and just start like walking with what I believed in, which was I believed in good.
Yeah, I like that.
And then, fast forwarding to my early 20s, I went through a lot of trauma between like 15 and 21. And I hit this point where I was not happy with my life. I was very, very depressed, and I was letting all of these things that I had gone through really be the focus of my life. And it was like, the more I focused on these things, the more bad things that kept happening. And it was like, I felt like every day I woke up and it was just something else. And finally, my mom was like, Jenni, I think we need to like change what you focus on. You need to start focusing on like good. So I created a dream board, and I had no idea what a dream board was, but I just put pictures of all of the things I wanted in my life, because my life at this point was nothing that I wanted. And I looked at this dream board every day. And when I looked at it, it made me feel so good inside. And within 6 months, all of these things on my dream board came true. Like it would, but in not normal ways. Like it was like magic. Like it was just everything shifted. And looking back, I was like, what changed? And what really changed was so simple, but I started focusing on what I wanted. And when I did that, like the whole world shifted, and everything that I desired at that point manifested. And within a year, it was like I was a completely different person living a completely different life.
That's flippin' amazing. I love that. Like just that you didn't even really fully know what you were doing, and I wonder if one of the keys was you didn't have an expectation that any of these things would come true, so to speak, in a manifested way, but more just that you were like, I feel good when I look at these things, and I don't feel good when I'm looking at all the stuff that I don't want. So I'm just going to look at this every day.
Yes. And like looking back, it's like, it feels so magic to me. Like there was just so much magic in that shifting to my desires. And I think you're completely true. There was no expectation of anything. It was just like, it just felt good. And so at that point, for 6, 7 years, like I happily went along. I had manifested an amazing husband, a brand new car, a brand new house, and a job that paid twice as much within this year. And so it was like, I kind of put the dream board away, didn't really think about it, and just went about my life. And then about, I would say 6 years later, I found out about personal development. And when I found out about personal development, I started listening to podcasts. And then I came across the book, The Secret. And when I read it, I was like, light bulb, like, I can't believe this. Like, I did this and I had no idea what it was. Like, this is amazing. And I knew it was true because I had already done it. And so then that was like a pivotal point in my life where I realized I have the power to create my life by what I think and what I focus on. It was that realization of what I had done before. And it was just like, it was crazy. So once I found The Secret, I started manifesting like crazy again. Like it was just like, things were happening, business was coming in, and then I ended up manifesting a pregnancy. And I say that because I had been terrified to get pregnant because I had a miscarriage in my early 20s. And so I decided that I was not deserving of having kids because of all of this stuff that I had happened, and it just wasn't going to happen for me. And then once my husband and I had got married, we were happy. I really started thinking about like wanting to have a child, but we didn't talk about it. And I just started writing in my gratitudes that, I would be so grateful for a healthy pregnancy and grateful. And like, it was just, and then it happened and it was like, oh my gosh. And it was really, every time that I start to focus on the desires, the feelings, that it just opens up the magic of the universe. And then, of course, pregnancy and the first couple of years of motherhood, again, it put all of that stuff on the back burner. It's like I had these bursts of what was possible, and then I just kind of let life flow. And then once my daughter was about 2, I realized I really wanted to find me. I really wanted to be able to heal me, to be this version of me that I wanted my daughter to be able to look up to, and to, I'm trying to think of the right word, but spirituality really became a big part of it because I wanted her to be able to look at the world with open eyes and not have this, you have to believe one way. And so I just started looking into everything that felt right. I made this decision that if something felt right, even if it scared me, I was going to do it. And once I made that like pact with the universe, all of these doors just started opening. And I ended up, for me, the upbringing I had, anything psychic, anything like that, it was very taboo. Like I remember like driving by like the psychic, like palm reading things. And my mom was like, no, like that's like evil. You don't do that. It brings evil spirits. And so I had that limiting belief in my subconscious that I didn't want to open up myself to evil. And so I'd always had that in the back of my mind, but then I came across this psychic who did numerology, and I just resonated with her so much. And I was like, I really just want to have a reading. Like, I want to have a numerology reading. I want to talk with her. And so I did. And that really opened my eyes to the amazing energy of spirituality, of psychics, because it was nothing like I expected. Like, I think movies give us such a bad perspective of this, because you picture like somebody with cards and, velvet curtains and a crystal ball in front of you. And it was just like, I was talking to this amazing woman from Australia that was a mom and had 2 kids. And, she was just a normal person like me. And so that really opened my eyes up to, I can be normal and still have abilities. Like I remember always feeling like I had magic in my hands. Like when I was a kid, like I felt like I could like move something or do something with my hands, but it was like I would try and I couldn't, but I still felt magic.
I love kids. I love it. Totally. You're like, it's not working, but I know I can do it.
Yes, it was like I felt that magic inside. I just didn't know how to activate it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I just have to I don't want to interrupt you for long, but I just love that because that's exactly it. Like, I think kids do have that magic. Babies, all the ones I've ever met have that magic, and adults still have that magic. It's just we get discouraged by our inability to remember how to use it and all of the crap we take on, shitty beliefs about ourselves. And then we just think we're just like herpy dirt muggles and life sucks and we're all busy adulting and miserable.
Yes. And I think that's so true. And I have a 4-year-old daughter, and the way she looks at the world and the way she sees magic, and she tells me she's magic. She tells me she has powers. She's like, I can move this and I can do this. And I remember saying things like that. And when I was a kid, my parents were like, no, you can't. And I don't encourage her in an unhealthy way, but I encourage her in the fact that she's magic and she can create her thoughts. And this is a really funny side story, but I'm going to tell it. So we've been practicing her setting intentions because she was having bad dreams. And so when I lay in bed with her every night for her to fall asleep. And so we've been setting her intentions for her to have good dreams. And she's been having good dreams. And she wakes up and she's like, Mom, I had good dreams. Like, this works. And so the other day we're shopping in the store, and she wanted a toy. And I'm like, Hunter, we're not going to get a toy right now. Like, you just got a new toy. And she's like, well, I'm going to set the intention. And and it was just so amazing, like how the things that we teach our children and like the intentions and the power that we have to be able to open their eyes up to the world of magic so much earlier in life and not have to hopefully go through all of the things that we went through to get where we are.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I love that. And I feel like so many parents are doing this now. It's just this beautiful trajectory of kind of having grown up with that feeling of that wrong feeling when you're kind of told like, no, you can't do that. Or like, that's silly. Nobody can do that. And just feeling like, like you don't know, but then you kind of believe it because you're afraid that they do know and you're just wrong. Right. But then finally coming around into adulthood and being like, no, damn it. I was right.
Yeah.
And then like at least making the step, like we're evolving in our consciousness as parents is just so beautiful. Making the step of holding that openness for your child to explore all of that as they form their identity, being able to include their magic in their identity formation process and like figure out all those little tricks that exactly like put them in the driver's seat in terms of their thoughts and their intentions and their feelings. My son always used to say, he's 16 now, but he used to be like, nobody can see this, so I'm gonna have to describe it, but he'd be like, I'm gonna move this phone with my mind powers. And he'd be like, he'd point like with fingers at his mind, like, I don't know, Chris Angel or something, and be like, oh, like he's concentrating and he's moving his hand. Like it's so much work to move his hand to pick up his phone and be like, oh my God, I did it. I'm like, technically it is your mind powers that told your hand to move. Anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I think that just like having children and seeing the magic, but also like mixing it with the normalcy, like being able to, I mean, it's definitely like, I feel like I'm drowning half the time. It's like, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, trying to teach a 4-year-old to have boundaries, but to be nice and that she's magic and all of these things. It's like, how do we not raise people pleasing kids that get walked all over, but also like to be nice? Like you can tell someone you don't want to play with them, but you still have to be nice.
Yeah. No. Yes. Parenting.
Yes, definitely. So that was, I just having her has been very eye-opening to the magic in the world. But like I said, like everything that's come, it's just come in like magical ways. Magical people have brought themselves into my life and magical different avenues to bring out different things in me. And so another thing along the journey that just felt right was a course I took last year with Tiffany. I think her last name is Skiro. And it was like a course on your third eye and learning that you have magic and that you have power to be able to clear your energy and that you can see things and that you can channel and like all of these things. No, it's just been such a beautiful journey. And then, of course, I met Amy, and she has been such a pivotal person in my personal journey with healing, with spirituality, with truly believing in myself and the magic that I have and that I possess, and knowing that I think having that trust that what you get is, you have to be able to trust the information that you're receiving, and being able to trust yourself whenever you have always looked for outside sources for validation was huge. I was always a people pleaser. I always wanted people to like me, and I always wanted that outside validation. So getting information for myself and then knowing that's true and being able to trust your intuition and being able to trust what's coming to you has just been so beautiful and so powerful.
I am so glad that we get to be a part of each other's journeys. I feel
I
like
know.
I really relate to that. I was always a people pleaser too. I was one of those people that, I mean, it probably still comes through in my energy. I just love people and I want to get along with everybody, and I genuinely do, and I genuinely want everybody to come away feeling happy and all that stuff. And but similarly, like when I didn't understand how to navigate that, it meant that I was constantly looking for that feedback from other people. And so it was a big process for me, like took ages for me to figure out like, oh, I have to trust myself and I have to start that process first. And like it feels wobbly and insecure, but it's kind of like riding a bike. Like probably it's going to feel wobbly when you do it at first, but the more you keep going, the steadier it gets and the more you find your balance and you know, just get used to your own intuitive guidance and how it comes through, what it feels like when it comes through, and it becomes easier and easier to trust it. And then I feel like then the validation just comes rolling in when you don't really need it anymore. Just with everything, with manifestation, like once you've like stabilized the feeling of it in yourself first, then it comes in.
Yes, totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
I totally agree with that. And I think that I'm I'm at the place, like I'm still on my spirit. I mean, of course, we're all on a spiritual journey forever, but I would say I'm in the stages of learning to trust myself and then also being able to put myself out there. That has been huge. And I think the thing is so many people think you have to like put yourself out there to the whole world at one time and open yourself up for judgment. And it's like, no, like we get to make our own journey. We get to make our own decisions. And if I want to tell two people and talk about it in my Facebook group only, that's fine. Like you can tell your family, you can tell whomever when you're ready, if you're ready. But
Mhm.
part of your journey is not needing validation from those people. Like they can love you. Like my husband, I mean, he is like work outside, you know, hardworking man. He does not believe any of the stuff and he thinks I'm weird and crazy, and I am. So but he loves me, and he trusts that I'm on the right path and I'm doing, me. And I think that's the important thing is, surrounding ourselves with people that love us and being on this journey, no matter where you're at. Like, you don't have to tell people if you don't want to. Like, it's your journey, and you get to tell who you want, when you want, and that's okay. Because for
Yeah.
me, like, being judged was so hard, and it's still like, I don't put everything I do out there to the whole world. I also have a normal 9 to 5 job where it may not mesh with everybody. So you're allowed to keep things separate. And I think that knowing that and hearing that, even, from you and other people, it's so powerful. It's like, it's our journey. We can keep it close and sacred. And then as we're ready, we can share it with who we desire to share it with.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up, because absolutely there's like, it's super liberating to come out of I've heard people refer to it as the spiritual broom closet. It's super liberating, but at the same time, there's no requirement to do that. It's not like a step on a to-do list of your spiritual awakening that you have to like now push through your comfort zone and tell everyone in the world. I think that it's like, I mean, to be totally honest, I did share for a little while in 2019 this kind of stuff on my Facebook, like my regular Facebook page, which was how I built my Facebook group. And it was really small at first, it was like 50 people or something like that. And they all came from my main Facebook page. But after a while, I just stopped sharing it because it just didn't feel good. I didn't want to put my energy there, and nobody would like, I'd get like you and Lara and like, 5 solid people that would always like give me some love on my posts when I was trying to share something. And it was usually just about like, how, I'm just telling people how amazing they are. That's all. And
Yeah.
most people are like, ugh, I don't have time for this. Eye roll or whatever. And I realized they just want pictures of my kid. They just want, like, it's all the people in my regular life, all the people
Yeah.
who aren't on that spiritual path or aren't on one that resonates with mine. And that's fine. They don't want that side of me, and I don't have to. It was more about how it made me feel, like feeling like, oh, you don't want this part of me. It's like, who cares? They don't have to. They're not obligated. It doesn't make any difference in my life. I have this whole beautiful Facebook community and this huge, beautiful podcast community, and people on Instagram who come because they're like, oh, this resonates with me and I want this. So why wouldn't I just put my energy there and not feel like I have to broadcast it to the whole world? Like, there's just places where they just don't want that side of Amy, and that's okay. And it's not a self-betrayal to recognize that and,
Yeah.
just be where I am wanted, I guess. And yeah, I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge, is that there's no requirement to show up in a way that makes us feel really uncomfortable. Although it's good to push through our comfort zones, it's like you have to know why you're doing it, and it has to be for a reason that's really going to benefit you, rather than you just telling yourself you should.
Yeah. Definitely. And like, I think I went through some of the same things. Like, I was like posting on my regular Facebook, and the energy is not the same. And it's like, as spiritual beings, I think protecting our energy is so important. And when we're putting our personal things that are very sacred to us out there for everybody to see, I mean, it just depends on what it is and what your intention is it and with it, and your intuition and what feels good to you. And I think that's been a huge thing for me, is trusting my intuition and asking myself, like, why am I wanting to do this? Is it for validation? Is it stepping out of my comfort zone? Or is that because I think, like you said, stepping out of your comfort zone is so important, because we want to push those comfort zones, because that's where growth happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we go to the next level, is through doing the things that make us scared and pushing through the fear, but knowing the reasons that we're doing them is so important.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I have a question for you. I would love to hear you elaborate on what personal growth means to you. Like you mentioned that as like one point in your journey after you figured out how to manifest without knowing it, you
Yeah.
stumbled upon personal growth. And yeah, for some reason I just really want to ask about that and have a conversation around what personal growth means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I think the most important thing has been emotional intelligence, learning that emotions that come up are a lot of triggers typically, and our triggers come from traumas, limiting beliefs, all of these things in the past. And my personal growth for me has been so huge in being able to interact with the people in my life, because once you start understanding emotional intelligence and the way not only your own mind works, but the way other people's, you have so much more compassion, and you're able to forgive. You're able to see things just from a different perspective, but also just a much more compassionate perspective. But I think there's been so many layers to personal growth. And another one that has been so huge and so pivotal for me that you have helped me with so much has been healing. I went through, between the ages of 15 and 21, I went through a lot of trauma, like a lot. And then I, just put all of that stuff in a box and put it in my heart and left it there for over 10 years, not knowing that all of that stuff was affecting how I interacted in my everyday life. I thought because I was not sad that I was happy. And once you realize that being happy is happy and it's not just not sad, it's like, holy shit, like I just want to unpack all of this crap and get rid of all of the trauma, because I just want to live this beautiful life that I'm here to live, and quit letting these things that happen to me hold me back, because those things do not define you. They're just a step through your life that has, they bring you the opportunities, they bring you to where you are. Like we have to be able to go through those things to grow through them. And I know we've talked about this a lot, and there's a lot of, some of it's stuff that's soul contracts that, you made that contract before you were born, and some of it's just free will and it just happens. But because it happened, we're able to learn and we're able to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so just dealing with the trauma and going through, and a lot of it, I know you and I have done in the Akasha, I've done a lot of meditations. And it's like, when you set the intention to start to heal, like the crap comes up that you need to heal. It's like, don't set that intention if you don't want to have the conversation that triggered you with your husband, for 10 years come up immediately. And it's like, the more intention I've set to heal, like all of these things, it's like, well, I didn't want to heal that. Like that sucks to have to feel right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so powerful to move through that in an empowered way. And with the emotional intelligence, like seeing the way that I'm able to handle these conversations that triggered baby Jenni could not handle. Like triggered baby Jenni was insecure, and she did not feel loved, and she did not feel worthy of love. And so seeing those things on the other side of, having my daughter doing all of this self-love stuff and being able to deal with those triggers in an empowered way, it's life changing. Like literally it changes your life, but it changes your relationship so much, because you're able to let go of things that you couldn't before, because you can handle them properly now. And it's not like you're just stuffing it back down inside. You're actually processing it, feeling it, and letting it go. And when you have that self-love and that self-worth, that emotional intelligence, it's completely different. Like, yeah, it still sucks to have to deal with things that make you feel a little icky. But whenever you go through all of that, it's like, oh, okay, like I can totally handle this. And then you feel like a rock star.
Yeah, totally. It's like you feel like, okay, this doesn't feel good. I'd rather not think about these things. Like I don't enjoy feeling the emotions that come up as I'm triggered. but also I can handle it, and I know they're not going to actually be here for that long, and I know that I can process it in a way that actually lets, a big layer of it go, so that I don't, because when we just shove it down, it's going to resurface again later in, in the same intensity or more, to try and force our hand to actually confront it. So it's nice to be able to just like make peace with trauma and be like, okay, it's a thing that happens to humans, and
Yeah.
I'm a total badass, and I can move through it. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need to reach out and like anchor ourselves to somebody who is not triggered by the same things that we are. I'm a big advocate of that. I do that myself too, but that it can't take me down anymore. I love what you said about when you realize that not you weren't necessarily happy just because you weren't sad. And I feel like, oh, I felt that so deeply. Like, yeah, like sometimes with trauma, it's just when we're just moving forward with it, like carrying on with our lives, we get to a point where it's not affecting us in such an acutely noticeable way, but that doesn't mean it's resolved. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean this is as good as we can ever feel. It's just like we've become kind of numb to it and built some scar tissue over it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing, so I had practiced like forgiveness for a long time. Like that was, I used the Ho'oponopono Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, and I've used that for years. And I've made so many forgiveness lists, but forgiveness is powerful. But healing is like the frosting on the cake. It's like you can forgive somebody, but sometimes that doesn't heal that wound that you had. And so, like you said, knowing whenever you should reach out to somebody or find somebody that can help you move through that, because we can do a lot ourselves. Like we are freaking magical. We can, go to the akasha, we can do all of these things, but sometimes you need somebody else to be that mirror, that reflection for you, that you can help you to move past certain things, like the things that you've helped me move past. And I feel like, side note, Amy and I had an amazing healing, and I don't remember what was the exact title of the session we had. It was like the holographic matrix akasha.
Yeah.
I have not talked to her since then until today, but honestly, it was life changing. Like I feel like a new person. Like I feel like there's so much integration still happening, but it was like I've like walked on cloud freaking nine. Like it's like I feel worthy. I feel just I feel so much deeper. I feel so much safer. Like I feel so much more connected with myself. So I think that that's a really powerful part of all of this journey, is reaching out. And sometimes it's just setting the intention of, I want to find somebody to help me with this. And then trusting that the universe is going to put the right person on your path, because that is what I've done. And it's like, whenever you set the intention and you trust that it's going to happen, then it's going to freaking happen. Like, it is, because it's the universe and it always delivers. So if you have something you're dealing with and you don't know how to handle it, or you are looking for someone, just set the intention, like this is going to happen, and then it will, and the right people will come on your path.
Absolutely. And first of all, that just like felt like the biggest energetic hug to hear that feedback. Oh, and then also I love what you said about even just setting the intention, that because sometimes we get so into our 3D brain. Like I know I've helped people through a lot of trauma, but I've witnessed a lot of trauma and I've experienced a lot of trauma. And I know sometimes like I never want to sound flippant about like, oh, healing trauma is easy, because it's, in a way it is, and yet it totally isn't too. And sometimes people have experienced such intense trauma that they can't control their reaction to the trigger. And that's when it's really helpful to have somebody who's like anchoring you to help guide you through it. And sometimes in our 3D brain, we think like we can feel, I do this all the time, even though I'm, in 5D a lot of the time, I'm still in 3D too, and I'll think, oh, I need to find somebody to work with, and then I'll just like be googling or whatever, like trying to search for it. And I'm never finding it. But if I just set the intention or just let the universe know, like, I'm ready. The universe is so supportive of our healing. It's like all the universe fucking wants is for us to like unburden ourselves from all of the trauma that we're carrying and return to the magic that we actually are and work in sync with the universe. That's like the universe's greatest aspiration. It's so happy to bring us the right people. And, you know, I love supporting people through trauma, but you'll know if it's right for you to work with me because it feels right. It feels like a pull. But that doesn't mean that I'm for everybody or any particular healer or support person is for everybody. You have to go with that pull and kind of let the universe bring you the right person, and they'll just seem kind of like sparkly and shiny or something like something draws you to them. And just always follow that. Don't follow what your brain, don't be like, oh, Jenni had amazing results, so I should work with Amy. Work with Amy because you feel pulled to work with Amy. If you feel pulled to work with somebody else, do that. Like, just follow what feels right to you. I totally believe that the universe brings us the right people, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And like what you said, like this whole like dealing with all of the, I don't know if you know Carrie Russell, but I love the way she talks about triggers. She calls them gifts of shit. And that's exactly what they are. Like your trigger is telling you something you have to deal with. Like our bodies are so smart. They're so magical. They tell us what we need. Like when we start having ailments, we know something is going on. We're just trained not to listen to our bodies. Like
Mhm.
our bodies are self-healing, all of this stuff. But on this journey, it was like, for so long, it was like, I just want to become this person that, is spiritual, that has all of this. And it's not that. It's really a journey of unbecoming. It's like peeling back the onion layers to get back to that perfect baby you always talk about. Like we are born perfect. We are born worthy. We are born, love and pure. And it's all of the things, the society, the expectations, the limiting beliefs that we've taken on throughout our life that we have to just unpeel. And we don't have to change anything. We're perfect as we are. It's just realizing that.
I love that. It's unbecoming. I think that's so true. So true. Like, it's just releasing another layer of who we thought we were that actually is not accurate, and getting
Yeah.
closer and closer every time to who we actually are, which is like mind-blowingly amazing. Can barely even fathom it most of the time how amazing we are.
Yes, it's so true. It's like the more you learn, the more you're like, you just see the magic, the world, the universe, everything. It's so beautiful. And we're so lucky to be able to be here.
And I feel too, I really like this conversation because I feel like in a lot of the akashic readings I've done, certainly not every single one, but I find that there's a theme of a lot of us have come to clear this stuff out because it keeps getting compounded through the generations. Because previously, prior to like, I don't know what year, it doesn't even matter, but like somewhere between maybe, let's say, roughly the 70s and currently, at that time, people who were born in that window, and that's not a definite window, have come in with more capacity to see the potential for things to be different and to choose differently. Prior to that, for a whole bunch of reasons, not because anybody's evolutionarily less than we are, but just a whole bunch of circumstances, people were more apt to just keep repeating the same stuff and handing down the same trauma and handing down the same pain. And so many of us have come with the intention that feels like shit from the earth side, but we feel very proud of it from the soul side, to do our part in clearing out all of these wounds and all of this trauma, and in so doing, make a lot more space for the new people that are coming in to have access to the actual potential that's available to them of who they are. And it's extremely, I always think to myself, like, oh my God, every time any of us heals even one of our traumas or limiting beliefs or whatever it is, we're doing the collective such an incredible act of service. Like it can't even be summarized in words. And unfortunately, we we don't get directly paid for all the work we do to heal ourselves. I think we should, because it's a lot of work.
Oh my gosh,
But
yes.
yeah. But it's
And
yeah, go for it.
and with that, what you're saying, like, all of this, like learning emotional intelligence, it gives me so much more compassion for like my parents, because whenever I first learned about personal development, like I was almost 30 and I had never heard of any of this. And it's like the only thing I ever remember hearing of was like the self-help section at the bookstore. And that meant something was wrong with you. Like self-help.
Right.
And like now personal development and manifestation and spirituality, all of these things are so open and out there, and they're so accepted. And so we're in this a magical time where it's like we get a shift and we have so many resources available, and we have the internet where we can just connect with all of these amazing people all over the world. It's like I talk to my husband and he's just not in the whole internet world. And it's like, oh yeah, my friend in Canada and New Zealand. And he's like, your friend? And I'm like, yeah,
I
we're
know,
actually friends.
I
Like
know,
just
right?
because I haven't met them in person does not mean anything, because I feel more connected to them than to most people.
I know, it's so funny. I'll be talking to people in my life who aren't in the they aren't online in the same way that I am, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, my friend from LA, my friend from Arizona, my friend from New Zealand, my friend from Australia." And it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, oh no, they really are my friends. Like some of them I have like personal phone conversations with just for funsies. And yeah,
Yes.
it's a beautiful time. And I like to think about that too. Sometimes, I hear frustration, well, especially because I kind of try to listen a lot, not intensely, but listen to the alternative news sources, because I know that what we're getting in the mainstream generally is being skewed so that we don't really understand what's going on. And so in those alternative news source communities, I see verbalized a lot of frustration that like everybody needs to wake up, and a lot of anger at like the air quotes the sheeple and things like that. But the way I feel about it is that it just has to be enough. There just have to be enough people, and it like creates a tipping point where the momentum rolls over and like a new pattern emerges. And I feel like we're already at like more than enough. There's so many people. I'm continually daily in awe of how many people I get to connect with, literally daily, new people who are at a level of consciousness where they want to heal or they want to explore other possibilities. And it's so encouraging. And so it's okay that there are all these other people that aren't there yet. They'll get there. It's like you just can't force that stuff on anyone. It's way too uncomfortable. It's like, doing all that healing is not a walk in the park. Let's put it that way. The rewards are great, but the work is heavy, and you can't force
Very.
anybody to do that. They have to be ready to do it themselves. Like you were saying, like unless you're ready to have like some conversation with your husband that you had 10 years ago that triggers the heck out of you come up like right now, then don't say that you're open for healing, because your psyche will just start bringing it up.
Yes, that literally, like, it was like after our call last week, that exact same thing. It's like, you want to heal, you want to move past these things. And like two things that have been triggers like a long time ago that I felt like I moved past. Nope, they still triggered me. It felt different, but I had that icky feeling inside, and it was like, I don't want to feel like this. What do I do? How do I handle this emotionally? I have to message my coach. What do I do? This is so terrible. It's like you're emotionally intelligent enough to know that you can process it different, but you still get the feeling.
Yeah.
It still sucks. It's just like you can move past it differently in an empowered way, instead of either shoving it down or yelling or whatever way you process things. And it's okay however we do it, because I love the saying, we're all dealing with stuff at the level that we are, and we're handling it like parents, like having so much compassion for your parents because they did the best they could with what they had.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to realize that for ourselves and give ourselves that much grace. Like, yeah, I didn't know what I knew a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but I did the best I could with what I had where I was at.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. That like really people are working with the tools they have available and the level of awareness that they have available. And mhm. What did you just say that I wanted to say something about? I think it was I remember that I wanted to ask you about working with a coach and if you find that like helpful too on such a healing journey to like and what that offers you. And I think there was something else, but start with that one.
Okay. So I have had a couple different coaches for the most part of a year. And I think that having an unbiased support when you're going through a healing journey is so important because there's certain things that you can't talk to your spouse, you can't talk to your friends about because you want a perspective that is not the perspective that you want to hear. You want the correct perspective. And it's like if you call your best friend and you tell her your husband did this and it triggered you, she's going to be like, well, he sucks and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I don't want that. I want someone that is going to help me work through the feelings that I'm having or work through this trauma. So I think that having a coach has been invaluable for me, somebody that you can reach out to that is just there whenever you need for whatever. And I've had business coach, I've had all of this. And no matter what kind of coach you have, it's pretty much everything. It all is intertwined. And so even if you have a business coach, your business affects your life affects your business, your spirituality, like it's all intertwined. But I definitely think it's not necessary, but it helps you process and move through things so much quicker. I think that without having all of the support I've had over the last year, like I was talking to someone yesterday and it was like, I feel like like everybody talks about like quantum leaps. Like, I feel like I've had quantum healing. Like, like that's how like the last year has been. It's just been like the domino effect and it's happened so fast, but it's because I've put the intention out there that I wanted to do it. I have been willing to invest in myself, even when it wasn't comfortable, even whenever it stretched me more than I wanted to. But I knew the desire to heal and the desire to help was more than the desire to stay stuck.
Yeah. And I love that. And it sounds to me like ultimately the thing is that you were willing in your decision to work with coaches, it was less about the results that they could guarantee you or offer you or anything like that. It was more like just having support available from somebody who did not have an emotional horse in the race. So they also weren't going to bring their own. I mean, we all have our own biases, but there's a lot more distance. So they're not going to get muddy the situation and the clarity that you're searching for by bringing their hurt feelings and their triggers to the situation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the growth that I've had in 1 year, if I didn't have a coach and all of the support and readings and different stuff I've had, I mean, it maybe would have taken me 5 or 10 years. Like, I think that, getting support with someone who's been there, like however long it took them, like it escalates it towards like they've already done the work so they can help you do it so much faster.
Yeah. Or they're on their own journey of self-investment too, right? They don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to
Yeah.
be like way ahead of you and everything perfect, but it's like they are similarly on a journey of healing and looking at their own stuff and prioritizing their well-being and their authenticity, and they can therefore be supportive and hold a space for somebody else.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes to coaching I mean, you don't have to have someone that's far ahead of you. Like, I think one step ahead of you is all you need, like someone who's been where you want to go,
Mm-hmm.
or what you're trying to do, and just having that support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember the other thing I was going to say was like, this is kind of stupid, but I was just going to comment on how, again, with the triggers, it's like, it's just a point where you realize that you're not like you're ready to do the healing, which means you're not going to buy into your own bait. the same way, because I remember when I switched that, like relationships was an area for a long time that was really challenging for me, and I was not happy and didn't have the partnerships that matched what I really desired to create in my life, and couldn't figure out why, and would feel really sorry for myself and all that stuff. And I remember when I met Alex, and of course, just because you meet the right person doesn't mean your triggers aren't going to come up. Ha ha ha. Yeah, right. They're totally going to come up. You just have to choose to navigate them differently. And I remember really realizing that and being like, okay, this feeling is coming up, this intense vulnerability and insecurity and fear that this person is going to. I felt like I always got baited and switched before. So, like, this fear that I'm going to get baited and switched and stuff. And it's just like anchoring into the idea that, like, so if it does happen again, I'm going to be okay. And it's going to suck. And it doesn't have to mean anything except that I just am actually fine. And really that's what the healing journey is about, I think, is like you said, navigating our triggers differently, where they still feel like crap, but we just don't take that same bait anymore and blow up our own lives and throw kerosene on the fire and go, oh, why does my life suck? Why is this burning around me?
Yes, no, it's so exactly true. And it's like, you think like on the other side of it, it's like, oh, I've processed that. I've done it. It's not going to feel like anything. And then it comes up and it still does. And it's like, I'm taking those things that come up now, even though they suck, like as gifts, as showing me that there's still something that needs to be worked on, healed, worked through to make my life even better. Like, you can look at it, your perspective changes everything. Like, oh, why me? Instead of, it could be, the gifts of shit. It's a gift.
Gift of shit. I love that. That's amazing. And so I remember I got to do a year ahead reading with you, which was so much fun. And I remember, I think that one of the messages in the cards, like what you're leaving behind in like belonging to 2020 and not carrying forward in 2021, was like, I think it was that you had done all this healing work and now you get to just like coast for a while and like enjoy the fruits of that. Are you feeling that yet? Are you feeling like that unburdenedness and like, oh, I'm reaping some of the rewards of all of that hard ass work I did last year?
Absolutely. I mean, with the ease and flow, I think we still have to have expectations that there's going to be bumps in the road, but the bumps are not near as scary as they were before. And this year, it really has felt like ease and flow, and money is flowing and business is coming from the woodworks. And my relationship with my husband has got exponentially better than it's ever been before. And I feel like the deeper I go into myself, the more that I do, the more it benefits not just myself, but everybody in my life. But it affects your relationships so positively. And it's like, I was so scared of growing and doing all of these things. Like, I didn't want to like outgrow my husband or, something like that. And I think that's a very real thing that people go through. But it's like every level that I've risen to, my husband has just taken it in stride and like rose to the next level without having to do anything. Like, he was just waiting for me to rise. And it's been beautiful and amazing. And it's like, I dealt with so much feeling unworthy for so long that I never asked for anything. Like, I wouldn't ask him to do anything. Like, and this is like so silly, but I've just been like practicing being in my feminine and being in that receiving mode. Like, learning to be in my feminine and lean back has been so powerful. But it's so simple because like being in that receiving, it's like as simple as like texting my husband to ask me to bring home a cup of coffee. Like, that's something I would never have done before. Like, I just didn't want to bother him. But literally, I did this last week. And not only did he bring me a coffee, but he brought me roses also. It's like, he wants to take care of me. And it's like me asking him to do these things. Like, it's like he wants, I don't know. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect example. And I honestly think it applies to all areas of our lives, because it's like, really, the universe wants to deliver all these things to us. Like it's literally trying all the time. And it's us and our weird, twisted stories of not being worthy and it can't be this easy and whatever stories we have that's keeping it all out, that's preventing us from receiving it. And when we do all that clearing, then it's like, oh my God, my husband suddenly not only wants to bring me coffee, but roses, and our relationship is great. And oh my God, business is going really well. And I'm meeting a bunch of new people and money's coming in and like all these great things. It's been waiting for me this whole time. All I had to do was
Yeah.
heal.
Heal. And then I think exactly what you said is so powerful. It's like being in the feminine and leaning back is super, super powerful, but also being willing to ask for what you truly want, for like naming those desires, like not what you think you want, not what you think someone else wants for you, but what you freaking want, like getting clear on your true desires and then unapologetically asking for that, even if it's from your husband, from the universe, from your boss, for whatever, but being unapologetic in our desires, it just like opens up the universe, the flow of receiving to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I feel like I could talk with you for like a literal other hour just about the like the finer details of the manifestation process, because it's so fascinating to me and I love hearing it from somebody else's perspective who also is receiving it really easily and figuring out all those little simple but effective pieces behind it. But
Yes.
we're at an hour. So it'll have to be a to be continued. But thank you so much. This was such a beautiful conversation. And I really believe that the right people will hear it and feel emboldened to explore their own healing journey and to know that there are beautiful things waiting on the other side, and that everything that we're healing from feels really intense, but it's not anything that we can't actually handle and release and move through, and it's worth it. It's worth that level of intimacy with self.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. And thank you, everybody, for your time and your attention. I always appreciate it from the bottom of my heart that you spend a little bit of time with me and my guests listening to us ramble on and conversate. And if you enjoyed this episode, then screenshot yourself listening to it and tag Jenni and I and post it to your social media somewhere. Her contact stuff is in the show notes. And I hope you have a beautiful day or night wherever you are. I love you all, and I will catch you on the next episode, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me on this episode. I appreciate you more than my words could ever say. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you on the next episode.